mid-March. I'm assuming more and more people are going to be taking out their bikes. I've already seen quite a couple motorcycles out there riding, which is exciting. This is going to be a hell of a year for us riders. So I wanted to make sure I kind of go over, you know, what I do as a pre-season check for my motorcycle and see if we can compare what you do, see if there's anything I'm missing, or, you know, if there's anything that you might be missing. So one of the first things is, you know, definitely depending on where you store your motorcycle. For example, if you store it at, you know, if you live in an apartment or if you live in a house / townhome, you have your own garage, you have your own space to store your motorcycle. You want to check the area surrounding your motorcycle. Over time, you know, if you have a slow drip, you have a slow leak, that might be when you have an opportunity to see if there is a little bit of a puddle around where your motorcycle is, right? Usually a pretty big identifier to let you know, hey, maybe you should dig a little bit deeper, just to make sure that, you know, depending on how old your bike is, you don't have any seals that are going. For example, if you recently replaced the clutch yourself or redid your own stator, you want to make sure, obviously, there's no leaks, right? Same thing goes for anything that's a little bit more deteriorated, like radiator hoses. Radiator hoses, you know, even not if it's not pressurized, if there's a crack in the hose, it can cause a bit of a leak, right? So definitely really good to look into. So you can kind of get into doing some preventative maintenance on your motorcycle, because you don't want to be on the road going 50, 60, you know, whatever it might be, especially on the highway going 80, 90, and so suddenly you have a coolant pipe or a coolant hose that burst, and you go up in a cloud of smoke, right? That's if you're lucky, you know, that's no big deal. But if it spreads all over the ground in front of your wheels, then you have no grip, right? On the topic of grip, take a look at your tires. I am due for new tires, right? So that's something I know I need to do. There's a couple things to look out for. Definitely tread is one of them, right? You want to make sure that if your tires are worn down based off of how many kilometers you go on a yearly basis, you want to make sure that you still have tread, right? If they need to be, replace them. Don't be cheap about it, because your tires are basically your only contact to the ground. If your tires can't grip, you're not turning. You're going to be sliding somewhere. Probably not where you want to go. Another factor to consider is, even if you have tread, how old those tires are. My tires are quite old, so I need to get them replaced. We don't need to go into specifics about exactly how old they are. But essentially my understanding is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is, you know, when you have rubber that's old, sooner or later they harden, right? Because of the oils. The oils itself would kind of leave whatever rubber it is, so it doesn't become, it's not malleable anymore. It doesn't actually wear. So you might be in a position where you think, hey, these tires are great. They keep on running and keep on running and keep on running, and then never have to replace them. That's probably because they're not wearing anymore, because they're not actually gripping the ground hard enough, and you're not sheening any off when you're going through turns, when you're going through the road, right? What problems you're gonna come across when you're in that kind of situation is, if you hit rain, you're not gonna get any grip, right? When you're in a turn, especially on colder weather, you're not gonna grip, you're gonna slide out, right? And you want to make sure you get that taken care of, because, you know, on the flip side, another thing to consider is insurance is gonna look over your vehicle and they're gonna be like, hey, your tires are so old that it's considered negligence, and they're gonna breach you for your insurance, right? The best situation in that case is gonna be, you know, you have to pay to fix your own bike because insurance will cover you. Worst case scenario is that you cause someone else to get hurt, you know, you're gonna be in a bit of a pickle in that kind of situation. Next thing I will look at is your fluids. It's a bit overkill, I believe. I don't know if it's 100% necessary, but I do 2 oil changes typically. One at the end of the season and one at the beginning of the new season. There are contaminants in your oil. They settle, they sit on the bottom. So you want to make sure you remove all that oil. You know, you warm up your oil, you do your oil change so you can get rid of as much contaminants as possible. So by the time that you start it up again, you're not going to have just like a thick layer on the bottom of your oil pan. I do at the beginning of the season as well, just to get everything, again, fully cleaned out. Makes me feel better, and it's not too expensive. It's not cheap, but it's not too expensive either. Because again, the more you take care of your vehicle, the longer it'll last, right? Something else to consider is your brake fluids, your clutch fluid if you have a clutch reservoir like I do down here. You gotta make sure those are changed whenever they're dark. I've been told that you don't have to change them on a yearly basis, but you want to change them at least every 2 years. Again, brake fluid, DOT4 fluid or DOT3, depending on the vehicle that you have, is really not that expensive, right? It can be a bit of a hassle because you have to go through the process of bleeding your brakes and bleeding your clutch slave cylinder, right? But you also got to keep in mind it's a time for you to kind of make sure all the gunk is out of those calipers, for example, because, you know, again, your brakes are the only thing that's going to be able to stop you when you're going at a very high rate of speed, right? Or even when you're going through the city, you know, imagine slamming into something at 50 kilometers per hour without any type of braking at all, right? I think that would be a pretty terrifying moment. So after you've taken a look over the bike and all the fluids changed, you know, first couple rides, maybe make it a little bit of a shorter ride, right? Depending on how long your vehicle has been sitting, I don't really usually foresee it to be much of a problem. However, you know, when things kind of settle and you start moving them around again, you might then start noticing vibrations or sounds that shouldn't be there, that you know weren't there before that are there now. So it's a good time to really take a look and take the chance to kind of inspect over your vehicle and make sure everything is tip-top shape, right? It also kind of allows you the opportunity to look over your maintenance schedule to make sure everything is changed, right? That goes from, again, what we've talked about so far, making sure all of your rubbers and plastics are perfectly fine, including your wheels, again, fluids, your oil, your clutch, your brake, and then, again, making sure everything obviously is stable in one piece, so you know that when you go out ride, you're having a fun, safe time, and you're not going to be stranded on the side of the road. One of the last things that I check, well, you kind of really do check once you start up the bike, is your battery, right? Does the battery feel weak when you try to start the bike, right? How long have you had the battery for? You know, some batteries last a couple years, some last 5 years. I don't know what the expiry on batteries really are, because it also really depends on how you keep your vehicle as well. If you keep on the trickle charger, you make sure the battery never ever dies, you know, you have a battery that will last a little bit longer than what others might experience. So that's what I suggest. Kind of look over everything, make sure everything's in top shape. This way, when you go out and have fun, you're not going to be that one person who's going to be stranded on the side of the highway where everyone stops by to see if you're okay, or just zooms right by, and then you have to pay for a tow to get it home, and then get it fixed at that time. Yeah, make sure you take care of your bike. See ya.